Welcome to the Busy to Balance podcast. I am your host, Jamie Zweer, and I'm the founder of Oh How Healthy. This podcast is all about how to show you, the overworked, overwhelmed, and occasionally unhealthy woman, how to find health and balance in all different areas of your life. I will share with you digestible, bite-sized bits of info on everything from balancing a healthy plate to keeping a healthy home and everything in between. Now listen, I know that you are busy, and that is why I will keep these episodes short, sweet, and to the point. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Busy to Balance podcast. My name is Jamie Zweer and I'm your host. I'm here today interviewing a friend, Mckenzie, and she is the host of the Breaking Up with Yo-Yo Dieting podcast. She is a plethora of information. She knows so much stuff. She was a lot of fun to talk to. We talk all about nutrition, binge eating, motivation, the mindset around weight loss, and essentially breaking up with dieting. So I hope that you enjoy this episode as much as I do. Let's dive in. All right. Welcome to the show, Amber. How are you?
I'm doing so well, and I'm so excited to be here with you and all of your listeners.
Thank you. We are very happy to have you. Do you want to give us a brief introduction as to who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Amber. Obviously, I'm the host of the podcast, Breaking Up with Yo-Yo Dieting. I have a business called Breaking Up with Yo-Yo Dieting, and you guessed what it's all about, breaking up with yo-yo dieting. So my goal is to help women live in a body that they love. And so that might mean losing weight, figuring out how to maintain weight, or simply just like falling in love with you. And that could be at your current weight, that could be at your ideal weight, that could be wherever you are, but just that process of finding a way to feel comfortable in your skin no matter what.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that can be hard for all of us to do. You know, why do you think it is, Amber, that our first instinct, or not for all of us, but a lot of our instincts to just be mean to ourselves or beat ourselves up a bit?
You know, I think that's such a great question. So one of the things I forget to say about myself, as part of my bio, one of the things interestingly that I've done is I've given over 130 like public presentations to large groups. And in so many of those presentations, I get asked a question that's kind of variant of this, or just exactly that question. Why are we so hard on ourselves in our head? Yeah. And it's so funny. Like, I don't know exactly, but what I do know is most of us we so easily keep that running tally in our brain of what we're not quite doing right and the things that we've messed up. And then we just like keep this log of like, see, here's where you need to improve, or see, here you're not good enough. And I don't know if it's we're born that way, or we hear people criticize us in our lives. And so we then adopt it as like, okay, yeah, I should keep track of the stuff. But it just seems to be this pattern that happens, and it can be hard to break and adjust. Yeah,
I 100% agree. And, you know, it's kind of, it can be what we hear, what we pick up from our parents, and that we don't mean it, but unless you're consciously aware, like that's why we have to bring awareness to all that we do, like all of our habits and how you talk about yourself, and how you talk about yourself around little ones too, because those little ones become adults that then, you know, say it again to the next generation. Did you find that you had positive influences growing up?
A little bit of both. Like, I would say my family was supportive but distant. So I thought they believed in me and stuff, but I wouldn't say they affirmed that or they said anything. And there was times where I would definitely be like, why don't they love me and why don't they care about me? I know I had a lot of that. So I felt like my parents were very ambivalent. The one source I had my grandma, who she also lived with me for 16 years. And she didn't, I don't actually remember her saying a lot, but I always got the sense from her that, you know, she had some unwavering belief in me that I could kind of do anything. And I think from her, I started to have the belief that there was lots of things I could do, because she's the only person I really remember feeling like, yeah, I have this expressed notion that I can, but I don't, you know, it's one of those things where I don't explicitly remember people telling me that I couldn't, but nor do I explicitly remember people telling me I could. It was like a general sense. I mean, in my in university, I remember I wanted to do a second degree, and my parents were like, no, you can't. You're not going to make it. You're never going to finish it. And I don't know if that was like a situational thing or if that was the messaging I got all the time.
Yeah. So where do you think it all started for you, this whole health and wellness and weight loss process? Has it always been there in your life?
That's a great question. And I think, so growing up, I had a sibling who got really heavily addicted to drugs and alcohol at a really young age. And my family, we're normal, we're middle class. Like, I came from a reasonable home with reasonable working parents. Like, nothing was wrong that you're like, hey, yeah, for sure that kid's going to be an alcoholic. Like, it didn't make sense. I mean, he was 13 years old by the time he was addicted. So it was just like one of those crazy things that isn't typical. But the thing is, when that happens in your family, is as a kid, you have to make sense of it somehow in your head. And how I made sense of that in my head, rightly or wrongly, was I made sense of why I didn't get attention. And the reason I made sense of not getting attention was because I wasn't skinny or pretty or good enough. Now, I was like 14, 15, and I'm trying to make sense of why I think my parents don't care about me. And then I was trying to make sense of why my brother doesn't love me. And for whatever reason, I made sense that his addiction meant that he didn't love me. And I thought it was because I wasn't good enough. So around that time, I started paying attention and thinking, okay, well, if I can just get good enough, then people will love me. And at that time, it also filtered into like, if I'm attractive enough, then maybe a boy will date me and I can get loved that way. So I started to create these kind of odd ideals in my brain that don't make sense now. But as a kid, you have to come up with something when things are really going wrong. And that was what I came up with. So probably around that time, I started getting really conscious of wanting to look a certain way, but I didn't know why really, and I didn't know how. So that was kind of the onset of some crazy eating stuff that happened. But then I would say in the last 3 years, it's really become about health. So before it was about being skinny and pretty and perfect and trying to get people to like me or love me. And then that has evolved into disordered eating, and that's evolved into being really heavy. That's evolved to being really thin. And then finally I made a decision about 3 years ago. I met this boy that I love to death, and we made a decision we were going to move in together. And I thought, oh my gosh, I am so unhealthy. I am binging eating cookies on my bathroom floor right now, and I can't stop. And I cannot live with someone I love this much and be doing this crazy stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, what if we have kids? Like, what if we have kids and I teach this to them? I can't do that. So 3 years ago, I really dedicated myself to being healthy so I could be a better me for him and possibly our future children one day.
Oh, you just said so many good, interesting nuggets. Yeah, I because I think of this myself, Amber. I recovered from similar, eating disorders and being this child who I guess felt like I needed attention and, thought that I was fat, and, you try to think of where it all came from. But what I really like to focus on is, how did I make that swap? Because I've been, after I, embarrassingly admitted to my sister that I had this eating disorder at maybe like 13, 14 years old, after I couldn't deal with it myself anymore. I went to those outpatient treatment centers, and I've been part of them for maybe a year or so time, and nothing ever worked until I made an intrinsic switch in my head, like enough had to be enough, And so you felt like that breaking point for you was when you're like, listen, I need to do this for me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was similar for me. And I think that with anything, with any sort of program, weight loss program, health and wellness, moving forward in your life, you have to make that swap instead of just going through the motions of like, okay, I'm going to eat some kale salad for lunch today. I'm going to go to the gym. Like, you have to get your mind and you have to dedicate that to yourself. Like, you're going to do it for yourself, and you can do it, It's where it all really starts.
Yeah, you totally have to choose to do it for you and for the right reasons, and that's a great starting place.
Yeah, to break out with that yo-yo dieting with any sort of, because it really is a thing, and people ask all the time like, well, why it doesn't work for me, or why doesn't it work for me? It's like, because you did not decide. You have to be all in or all. You have to just decide mentally. So maybe being all in doesn't mean eating perfectly. It might mean having off days, but then deciding to get back on track,
Yeah.
And you speak a lot about that in your work, right? About how to get back on track after maybe these binge episodes or having off weekends or off days, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what are some tips that you might have for someone to get back on track after they fell off track or felt like they fell off track?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's such a good one because I think so many people, before they've made the decision they're really going to change their life, they go, I'll start again Monday. And then they eat something on Monday that they didn't mean to. And they go, I'll start next Monday. And they don't know that you can just start again 5 seconds later. You don't have to wait till the next Monday, right? So I love what you said about making the decision. And I think the decision to get healthy or the decision to lose weight or the decision to like be in recovery, whatever that looks like, is it's this long-term decision that you're making over time, and the recognition that that decision doesn't make you perfect. That decision makes you constantly striving to be a better version of you. And so if my end goal is to be healthier, well, if, I accidentally eat, so we get candy delivered to our office. If I accidentally eat 2 handfuls of candy because they were on the counter, they were in my mouth, I chewed them and swallowed them before I even realized what I was doing. It doesn't make me weak. It doesn't make me a failure. It doesn't make me destined to be fat. And I used to think all of those things. What I had to realize is that humans sometimes make oopses. Like we just sometimes make a mistake, and that doesn't mean anything about me. So I had to stop internalizing that mistake as being this Amber is at fault or Amber is bad or Amber is wrong, and just go, okay, like, that was a mistake, but eating a cake because I accidentally ate some candies, that's not going to help me. Yeah. If I just go, oops, I ate some candies and those candies were delicious. Yum. Okay. Now I'm going to stop eating, and I'm going to, usually after I would like have some sugar, I'd be a little crazy. It wasn't like stop eating. It was like, I want all the sugar. And I was like a sugar gremlin that couldn't stop eating sugar. But I had to learn how to tolerate those cravings, tell myself no more, you've had enough, and then make the next right decision. So the next right decision might be something like, at the next mealtime, I will have a reasonable meal. It might be, today I'm going to have another treat because I choose to, but then I'm, going to align myself again with my goals. And just because we make mistakes doesn't mean we are a mistake. I love the analogy. Like if you walked outside and one of your tires was slashed, would you go and slash all the rest of your tires? And most of us are like, no, if one of my tires was slashed, Amber, I would just change my tire, call a tow truck. I just, get that one tire fixed. And it's like, no. Our brains are like in us. They're like, slash all the tires. And that's what we do with our eating for some reason. We're like, oops, I made an eating mistake. So now let's slash all the tires.
Yes, that is some sort of crazy learned behavior. Right?
And getting on track is just realizing, like, just because you slashed one tire doesn't mean you have to go slash the remaining 3. Yeah. Like, you can do that, but you don't have to. Yeah. And so I think to get on track, you have to recognize you have some choice.
Yeah. And sit with those emotions too. Don't you find that it's impossible for some people? I mean, I believe like this is why people resort to something to numb us, right? Because we do not know how to sit with those feelings. So sometimes food numbs us.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It can be super numbing. It lights up the pleasure center of your brain. It helps you detach from whatever is going on in your world, and it makes you feel good. So it's a perfect numbing substance.
Yeah. So I just have to learn to sit with that uncomfortable feeling, which I feel like is at the essence of like any sort of breakthrough, like anything you're trying to do, like whether you're trying to be successful in any area of your life, like it's going to be a bit uncomfortable, whether you're at the gym working out, like guess what? You have to go through some uncomfort, like of lifting up muscle, weights and putting them down to build a muscle. And then the soreness afterwards of like the muscle being built to come out on the other end as a little bit stronger. And it's like that with anything. And you just have to sit with those uncomfortable feeling. Like, this feels really uncomfortable after eating that piece of candy, and it doesn't feel good to me, but, maybe I can distract myself and go for a walk, or, have a glass of water or something, or just sit here. Like, that's where meditating comes in, but that's like a whole nother podcast episode, but just be, right? Do you practice being in your wellness practice?
That's a good question. I would say like I practice more I'm like a pretty high strung person. So I have to practice calming down and calming down without food. So it's like, how do I soothe? How do I relax? How do I chill without indulging? And so for me, that's really been a learned thing. Like, I'm showing Jamie, because we're on Zoom, we're on a video call, but you guys can't see me. Like, I go buy myself flowers every week, and I just buy a couple like cheap flowers, and I put them together in my own bouquets, and I make sure I buy scented candles. And I used to think I don't like the smell of smelly things, but now I have essential oils that are in my home, and just trying to find things in my house that take the edge off and make me feel a little bit more joyful and delighted, to help me soothe my way through the rough edges of my emotions so that I can tolerate distress without wanting to numb out with food.
That is really beautiful. I love how you said that. And I do love those flowers. They are very stunning and calming.
It's so funny. Just like little things help. And so sometimes you're like, well, I don't want to go for a walk. Okay, well, you don't have to go for a walk, but how can you change the physical space that you live in? Like, I had a client recently just like redecorate her living room and then make her bedroom, redecorate her bedroom. She used to do a lot of eating in her bed. And we just decided that that was a no eating zone. And so, you know, sometimes when we redesign our physical space and make it more soothing and relaxing for us, then we actually do better.
Yes, for sure. And I think that doing those things can also, they eliminate triggers, right? Would you call them triggers? Like, I noticed for myself, when I moved into my new house about 5 years ago, I was very careful to not bring those triggers into my new house with me. And it could be something so little, like when you walk in the house and you notice all these shoes by the foyer, and it like you can't even like deal with it, or like you told your spouse like 100 times, like, don't leave clothes on the banister, and like they're triggers and they set you off and they lead you right to the refrigerator pantry and open up a bag of chips or something, you know? So like by doing those things that you're talking about also eliminates triggers too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. So, why do you think it's tough for certain people to lose weight, or why do you think we complicate the whole weight loss process? And what are some things that we can do to make it a little less stressful on people?
I mean, weight loss can be complicated. I mean, some people, they have some medical problems, but I mean, your general speaking person that doesn't really have anything wrong with them, I think a lot of us aren't conscious, and well, A, maybe we don't know how to eat, or B, we have no idea what we're putting in our bodies some days, you know? We're not conscious of, oh, I had a bite of my husband's sandwich, or oh, I had a fry off of someone's plate, and oh, I ate those candies as I walked by, and we don't realize all the things that we put in our mouths. And maybe it's, you know, our breakfast, lunch, and dinner are reasonably healthy, but then our snacks, like we're snacking all day, like life is a buffet, or maybe it's just what we're putting in our coffee. But generally, people that are overweight or obese, or have some extra fat they would like to lose. What we notice when you look in the literature is that overweight people tend to underestimate what they eat in a day. Yeah. And so, you know, I think a big thing, and people don't like hearing this, and I don't suggest tracking your food is like an always tool, but tracking everything you're putting in your body is a sometimes tool to use for periods of time in a row. And so I think the first thing before we can say, oh yeah, you can't lose weight because it's a medical problem, or oh yeah, you can't lose weight because it's a such and such problem, like unless you've had your physician do some tests, which you should do, a thing that really quickly you can start to see, what are my problems? Why am I not losing weight? Is take an honest food log for 2 weeks in a row and write down every single thing that goes in your mouth, just to see, what am I eating? And start to figure out, like, sometimes that will tell you if you're actually eating what you're supposed to be eating at the, you know, in reasonable portions, then maybe there is something else wrong. But I think my experience is a lot of people are really surprised at what they're putting in their mouths. Even if there's no plan, they're not changing anything, they're just recording, just tracking and seeing the data is the first step where we're like, wow, I didn't realize what I was doing. And there's some literature that suggests that even if you just start tracking, you'll lose weight, because when we're accountable to our behavior, we stop putting out whatever random thing in our mouths.
Yeah, awareness is key for sure. But It was funny. I wanted to ask you that question because I was watching like an old episode of The Office actually. And you remember the episode where they're all trying to lose weight? And I was like feeling it for them. Like I remember that feeling of like, oh, like why does it seem so hard? Like why is everyone complicating? Why do you feel like you don't need to eat anything? And then you think about calories and then you think about, oh, I gotta like find the time to go to the gym, and it sounds exhausting. Yeah. But it doesn't have to be like that. Like, do you talk about calories in your practice or your work?
I mean, sometimes a little bit. Like, you know, for clients, I want them to generally know what they should kind of consume in a day so they have a ballpark for that. However, it's more about creating healthy habits and getting in the good foods and eating your breakfast, maybe a snack, lunch, snack, dinner, snack, but that's it.
Yeah, like saying no in
other times. So if you're not, you don't have to track.
Yeah. I think that's so key. Like, even if you say, okay, I'm going to eat dinner and then we're going to go to dessert and even we're going to go to the movies and I'm going to have popcorn, right? Like, say no to, like, in between things or, like, practice that. Like, that is so hard to do, actually, because I'm the queen of graze. Like, I am snacking, grazing all the time. Like, and like, to practice, like, I'm just going to eat at mealtime or when I designate a time, which is not, like, an always thing. But, like, sometimes it can be so hard sometimes.
Yeah. And I think that's just one of the first things. Like, if you're not losing, if you don't want to focus on what or you don't want to track, then just really focus on meal times and nothing in between. And you can have planned snacks, but nothing in between. Because I think, again, if you're not losing, a lot of people treat life like a buffet. Now, that's not everybody. Of course, there's other things that can get in the way, but that's certainly one. And the next thing I would say, like, if you're having a really hard time, like a lot of people are like, okay, I'm going on a lifestyle change. That means tomorrow I'm eating chicken and broccoli only, and I'm going to hit the gym for an hour every day. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, if you've been eating pizza every day and you haven't been working out, eating chicken and broccoli and going to the gym, that's going to be grueling. Like, why are you doing that to yourself? That sounds horrible. Yeah. And so, you know, I would encourage people to think about, I mean, for some people that works. Some people can be like, boom, I'm all in and this is working. And if that works for you, great. But a lot of people, you're like, this is too hard and I'm stopping. So instead of making it so hard on yourself, which I mean, I did a bajillion times, like really focus on something and ease your way into it and make it enjoyable and make it fun and make it playful. Like, for example, people look at me and they're like, Amber, you must have worked out so hard at the beginning. But really what I did is I focused a lot on my nutrition and I didn't work out at the beginning because I thought, okay, like I know that I can't out exercise my bad diet and I know that my diet is all over the place. So if I can just get consistent with my diet. So I actually had eye surgery right before I was trying to get healthy. And one of the things I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to lose weight because I can't exercise? So I really had to be focused on just my nutrition. And I was so blown away when after the first week, I had a great drop in weight. But it was because my goal was just being so consistent and working hard on that one thing. And I think what I didn't realize is that overall health and a healthy way of eating that maintains the body that I love was a whole bunch of little skills built on each other over time. So I had to learn how to eat a breakfast that was nutritious and delicious and fast, that wasn't all carb, 100% carb. Carbs are good sometimes, and that, you know, wasn't too much. And I had to learn that as a skill. So initially I switched over to meal replacement shakes and I was like, oh my God, I'm so deprived and I hate this. And that's how I would feel every day. And that was the only switch I made. And I started to tell myself I would have it. And I would say, I am so satisfied. This is the perfect amount of food. In my head would be like, Amber, you're a liar. Like, that's not true. This isn't the perfect amount. You're lying. And, you know, 3 years later, funnily enough, I crave. So I have a chocolate with QB2 in it, meal replacement shake every day for breakfast. And if I don't have it, I crave it. But I remember when that was like, it felt like torture just to make that swap, the bagel for the meal replacement shake. And then after that got consistent, you know, I started working on my lunches, swapping out. I would just go to Tim Hortons or other fast food, and I started to swap that for something I made at home. But I think a big thing in losing weight is we try to go too hard, too fast, do it all by, you know, 30 days from now, and boom, I'm fixed. But we forget that it's a long-term, sustainable, not sexy lifestyle change that requires effort over the long haul.
Yeah, like we didn't gain the 30 pounds overnight, so why would you lose it overnight, right?
Exactly, but we forget that.
Yeah. So what do you say? Because I have those people that come to me, that are like, I have a wedding that I have to be at in 2 weeks, or I have this coming up in 1 week, and I need, I'm just not going to eat. It drives me crazy. But what do you say? What would you recommend?
Yeah, if someone's like, well, I'm not going to eat for a week, I'll be like, how long can you go for before you eat? Because, I used to do that all the time. I used to eat, and then I would think things like, okay, well, Amber, you overate, so that means all you can have tomorrow is coffee and creamer. Okay, so I've tried to do the coffee and creamer diet a bajillion times. And here's what I successfully know about the coffee creamer diet. I make it till about 3 o'clock. And then a French fry or a chocolate or some food comes by my face. And I eat it all, plus extra. So what actually happens in our bodies is when we are physically deprived, our bodies don't know that, there's a grocery store around the corner and probably food in your fridge. Your body is in caveman mode, and it thinks you're in the middle of the desert and it's starving and it needs to stock up because you're not going to feed it. And it's so funny because your voice, your inner animal will talk to you in your own voice in your head. It'll be like, eat something. It's okay. It's fine. And it's in your voice. So it sounds like you, but it's not you. It's your inner animal going, yo, human, feed me because I'm starving. Yeah. And so I encourage, the clients out there think, I'm just not going to eat. Well, think about that. Like, does that work? How long do you make it before the next thing you know, you're eating your face off and you're like, oh my God, what is wrong with me? I'm weak-willed. No, you're not weak-willed. You're just a human. So that's kind of my first thing is remember the body doesn't actually like starving. And the second thing is, that's nice if you want to lose weight in a week and maybe you can drop a few pounds. But, how many times in your life have you done that? And I bet so many women, we've tried that. Like, I have tried the quick fixes so many times. And I can't tell you how many times I've had to crash off that 5, 10 pounds, 10 pounds, whatever, only to gain it back plus extra. And we don't realize as we're ruining our metabolism, as we're changing our set point, as we're not helping our bodies. And okay, I get it. It's going to be disappointing if you don't fit in that dress 1 week from now. But gosh, imagine how amazing you could feel if, in 4 months you got invited to something and it just fit because you had learned how to live in your ideal body, because you had learned to eat for a body you love and feel comfortable in every single day. So I get it. It'll be disappointing if you don't crash diet your way to whatever thing in 2 weeks, but I can guarantee you, if you learn how to eat for your unique life, for your unique body, for the rest of your life, you will have more energy, you will be healthier and happier, and even probably have confidence and a life beyond your wildest dreams. So that is something like what I would say to them.
Yeah, it's a long-term game. It's definitely a long-term game. You cannot do this overnight. But yeah, I'm sure you've dealt with these people before that are like, I don't care what you say, I'm just starving myself. And so, but really like what it is, and what I've even noticed for myself is, okay, because it's like summertime, right? And we're getting into our summer clothes. We pull them out from our closet. And okay, for the longest time, I felt like uncomfortable in my summer clothes. Like I'm like, oh, I don't want to wear shorts because like my legs. But really, I wasn't wearing the right flattering clothes. Like I was trying to wear these jean shorts that are like going up my butt. Like, no, like how about you wear like a flattering dress or like a skirt or something? I'm like, game changing. It was game changing. And now I'm like, okay, like maybe I don't have to despise summer because we're not wearing flattering clothes, whatever part of your body that feels good, like let's show that off, Like, do you ever notice that about?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So one of the things I tell my clients if they're like busy trying to crash into something, and this is something I had to do. I was always buying clothes that were too small, thinking I'll fit into them soon, which, never happened. Or I'd lose some weight and then buy all that size clothes and then gain the weight back and none of my clothes would fit. Yeah. So one of the things I had to learn was buy clothes that fit you now. Now, like hands down, just buy clothes that fit you now. And if they don't fit you, don't buy them.
Yeah, and get rid of the old crap. Like get rid of the... I got rid of all of my stuff, and I told my husband, I'm like, I'm sorry, I have to go clothes shopping, and I'm buying flattering things because I finally threw it all, like I gave it away, and it feels so good. Feels so good.
Yeah, because like think of your confidence when you're wearing a shirt and it fits you perfectly. You're like, yeah, girl. But if you're wearing a shirt and it's too tight and you feel like a sausage, all in your head, you're like, I'm a sausage and I'm uncomfortable. And so I know a lot of my clients don't love it when I'm like, okay, I know you're not at the weight you want to be. I get it. But what do you have in your closet you feel great in? Is there a couple extra pieces that you could buy right now that aren't going to cost you a fortune that you can feel great in? So every day when you wake up and you go to work or you go wherever you go, that you can feel like you have your swagger and you have your strut and you can have some body acceptance, even though you're not where you want to be. And so, you know, in order to get where we want to go, sometimes we have to start exactly where we are and just make ourselves feel beautiful or comfortable or confident with exactly as we are, even if it's not even close to what we want.
Yeah, absolutely. We speak the same language, sister.
Yeah, girl.
Yeah. So I want to ask you one more question, and then I want you to, tell us all about you, how we can find you, what do you do. But when is enough enough? For example, when we look back at photos of ourselves, I'm sure we all have these photos of ourselves, right? You can kind of remember how you were looking or how you were feeling in a photo. And you remember feeling in the photo that you didn't look too hot or you were fat. But obviously we look back at the photo and we were like stunning and like we were so fit or so thin. I think that ties along with like thinking enough is never enough, right? Because even now you're going to look back on yourself now and think, oh, like I was so stinking cute. Like why didn't I think that then?
Right.
So did you have to come to a place where you are now when enough was enough? Like you love yourself enough right now to accept yourself right now as you are?
Yeah. So I think, you know, that self-acceptance and that getting that place where you feel comfortable looking in the mirror no matter what is a choice. And I know for me, ironically, it started at one of my heaviest weights. I was over 200 pounds and I was feeling super uncomfortable in my skin and just hating on myself every day. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, I am so tired of being miserable with myself every day. Like I'm 23 or something. I was younger and I thought, you know, what if this is the body I have for the rest of my life? Do I want to be miserable for the rest of my life? No, thank you. Yeah. So on that day, I made a commitment to myself to just accept myself exactly as I was and be grateful to be alive and just live my life as if I was at that weight I wanted to be. And it just started with saying, Amber, you're enough exactly as you are, and working on that acceptance and being grateful for what I could do instead of condemning myself for what I wasn't. And then in my life, I've, fluctuated to being too thin or being like super fit and cute and looking in the mirror and being like, you're not enough. And whether I was heavy or I was thin, what I still had to practice was self-acceptance and recognizing I was enough at any size. Yeah. And I had to be healthy and I had to take care of myself. And so acceptance is a practice that I do daily of accepting who I am and where I'm at. And then is enough enough? So, you know, a lot of women, we can get to like a goal weight or hit a milestone. And we're like, I need more. And I think what's important to recognize is the difference between perfection and excellence. So girl, out there, ladies, we are not going to be perfect. And, you know, when we strive for that, we're going to fall short. And if we can just embrace our flaws and our not enoughness and our weirdos and our quirks and heck, even a little bit of our cellulite too, we're going to be so much happier if we can just say, you know what, that is what it is. And I'm going to engage with my friends and I'm going to be present with my partner and I'm going to go smell the flowers and live my life. And if I want to, I can keep striving for excellence so I can work to be great. I can work on my weaknesses. But we're never going to be perfect. So I just think when it comes to setting goals, you know, in our comparisonitis culture where we're always comparing or we always want more and we always want to be more beautiful, there's always going to be more. And it's like, okay, if you want it because it's going to make you a better you and at the same time you're living your best life, okay, great. But get out of the mindset of when I reach this X thing, then I will be enough. Because no, girl, you're already enough. Just like I was already enough. And when I embraced that, my life became so full. So that's probably a long-winded answer to your question. Did that answer it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a beautiful way to word that and to kind of tie everything together and know that you're enough. And I think that kind of bleeds into every area of our lives where maybe you're not where you want to be in your work situation or your money situation or your relationship situation, or you haven't hit X milestone yet, but girl, like, you're on your way. Like, you're exactly where you should be. And like, for today, like, you're doing everything that you can do, like, at this moment. And is it your dream body? Is it your dream, like, life, right? Do you have everything that you've ever wanted right now? Or is today perfect? Or is your day, your body as it is now, like, perfect? You know, like, our bodies do so much for us. We have to give it more credit and be a little kind. Yeah, and like, just be nicer to ourselves and accept the journey and the process, you know? Mm-hmm. Yes. So I think that was a beautiful way to tie everything together, you know? You have been wonderful, and you are the host of the Break Up with Yo-Yo Dieting podcast, right?
Yeah.
And how else can our listeners find you? Because you are so badass.
Thank you. Yeah. So I mean, if you want to find me, the best way right now is Instagram. So at Breaking Up with Yo-Yo Dieting is the handle. And then the podcast is Breaking Up with Yo-Yo Dieting. And then on Facebook too, Breaking Up with Yo-Yo Dieting. And then the podcast, I mean, the website is under construction. So very soon it will be there. So you can keep a lookout for it, but Breaking Up with Yo-Yo Dieting is everything, and that is where you can find me in all the places.
And is what we need to do is break up with yo-yo dieting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I hope that these tips were helpful for you. Amber, you were amazing, and we hope to talk to you soon. So thanks for tuning in. If you want to learn more about Amber, you can check out the show notes, and all of her information is right there, and you can follow up with her. So this podcast is getting transitioned. We're rebranding the name of the podcast. It's going to no longer be the Busy to Balance podcast. It's going to be the Oh How Healthy podcast. And the Oh How Healthy is the name of my business. It's the name of all of my social media platforms, and things are transitioning quite a bit in the business. So it's really, really exciting. I can't wait to share with you all the cool stuff going on. So just as a lookout, when you go ahead and search this podcast again, it is going to be called the Oh How Healthy podcast. So I'll catch you in future episodes. Bye, guys.